because I don't believe that what Mike has done is incorrect in any way, particularly when you are the presenter, as Mike was, of the most successful show on that channel, The Breakfast Show, from 6 till 10. I do think there's an irony to someone having a post appear on their social media channels that talks about an opinion which also relates to something that is concerning millions of people in this country in terms of illegal immigration, for instance, as part of that debate. But that in that person's own time, they say something that later on then effectively gets them the boot from their job. The commercial implications of what's happened here, I'm afraid, I think now put a big question mark, not over just the commercial viability of talk itself, but also its very future.
Breaking right now, the Mike Graham fallout grows for Talk TV as another star presenter on the station speaks out, ignoring boss's plea for silence after Mike was brutally sacked yesterday. Now, there is a bit of a fight back going on from News UK sources who have leaked to the Daily Express the real reason Mike was axed from Talk TV. And I'm going to take you through that reporting and reveal the facts as I know them in just one moment, plus show you everything in this impassioned speech from Russell Quirk, a star of Mike Graham's Plank of the Week, a regular host on the station, who says the way that this has been mishandled by bosses mean that it's probably not going to survive. But in case you missed it yesterday, here is how Julia Hartley-Brewer broke the news to furious listeners who are now engaging in a massive boycott of Talk TV.
News UK, the parent company of the station Talk, has made the following statement. Their statement reads as follows: "We were made aware of an abhorrent and vile post on Mike Graham's social platform several weeks ago. Mike Graham said this was not posted by him, and he agreed to cooperate with a company investigation using an independent forensic firm. He later reneged on several opportunities to cooperate with the company investigation. We have been gravely concerned at his repeated failure to cooperate on such a serious matter, and the decision has been taken that Mike Graham will not return to Talk."
And now, with Mark Dolan replacing Mike Graham in the lineup, a TV insider is fighting back, revealing the real reason why Mike Graham was fired from Talk TV after nearly 20 years to the Daily Express newspaper. This is what you call a desperate bid at damage control. So they report a source from News UK, the parent company of Talk TV, has given an insight into the real reason behind Graham's removal. They exclusively told the Express Mike Graham had to go. He claimed that his phone had been hacked, but everyone was skeptical of that explanation. He claimed that someone had hacked his Facebook account, but also hacked his iCloud and posted the offensive statement. News UK bosses gave him the benefit of the doubt and told him they would allow Mike and his legal representation to stand in a room with two forensic phone experts who would be able to go through his phone and figure out if he was actually hacked, who hacked the phone, and what else they accessed. While Mike initially agreed to submitting his phone, he didn't turn up on the agreed date and time. So News UK gave him another date. And again, Mike did not turn up. This happened 4 times. 4 times he refused to hand over his phone. So News UK took the decision to end their working relationship with him. Mike was told he was sacked by the big boss, and they explained the reason behind the decision. Dan Wootton Outspoken is available as a podcast too. So to listen or watch us on the go, wherever you are, then please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And as a personal favour to me, please rate and review, as it really helps our independent show. Now, at the end of the day, that's certainly not what I'm hearing from Mike, who engaged one of Britain's top legal teams to protect him. Because, of course, how on earth can you trust a company, especially a company known for the biggest phone hacking operation in British history, to actually treat this information contained on the phone, which Mike is very clear includes journalistic communications that needed to remain private, how on earth could he trust that that would remain secure? Now, there's been a huge reaction, of course, to the news, with even celebrities like Christine Hamilton weighing in, saying, Talk TV must have a death wish, Mike. They are mad to let you go, just like GB News are mad to let Hamilton go. Thank you, Christine. He's thriving elsewhere, and so will you. And now, a first chink in the armour in terms of the silence at Talk TV. All presenters have been told they must say nothing about this, which is, of course, hugely ironic for the channel which used to be known as the home of free speech. But I have huge respect for Russell Quirk, a regular presenter on the station. He was a guest on the very first Plank of the Week. He is due back on Plank of the Week next week. And he's just said, I have to say something. I have to say something. And it is a powerful message. Watch this.
Okay, so I am probably going to get into trouble for this, but someone needs to talk about Mike Graham. Look, I have a connection to Talk TV on the basis that for the last 5 or 6 years, I have been a contributor, I've been a guest on Talk TV, various shows, and over the last 2 or 3 years, I've been lucky enough and very grateful to have been trusted with a few shows. I've done about 50 shows on my own, covering for the likes of Ian Collins, Julia Hartley-Brewer, Kevin O'Sullivan, and Alex Phillips, and so on. So I'm very lucky, very grateful, yes, that is, I guess, what qualifies me to make this video, albeit, I'll be clear, I am not an insider, and I am not party to probably any more information than anybody else is. And in fact, recently, I've been at Talk a lot less, not anything to do with Talk, not any management decision, no cancellation, nothing of that ilk, but simply because I chose to go and get elected as a Reform councillor on October the 2nd. And in the run-up to that, in what's called the Purdah period, I had to stand down to the Ofcom rules, the Ofcommunists, as Dan Wootton calls them, dictate that you cannot be, you can be on air, but the restrictions, the rules and the regulations are very, very tight indeed. So Talk took the view, understandably, rightfully I think, to bench me for the few weeks in the run-up to my election campaign.
But he is back on air now and appreciates that speaking out could see him blacklisted from the station, but he says morally it's something he just has to do. Watch.
However, we need to come to the subject of Mike Graham, because over the last 4 weeks, there has been, I think it's fair to say, no pun intended, radio silence by Talk until yesterday, when it was announced on Julia Hartley-Brewer's show that Mike effectively is not coming back to Talk as a consequence of this debacle over this post that appeared on his social media, which he says was placed by somebody else by way of a hack. But that effectively said the following, that he had an issue with the fact that multiculturalism had not worked, was surrounded by a sea of non-white faces in London, and so on and so on. Now, I'd like first of all to deal with what I think about that post, and regardless of whether it came from Mike or indeed was hacked. Bearing in mind, Mike did have his phone stolen about 2 weeks before that incident. So, you know, there is certainly some credibility to the belief that, as Mike has clearly said and maintained, that his phone was hacked.
And of course that is true, but at the same time, we had Father Calvin Robinson here on the show yesterday, a long-time supporter of Talk TV, who said, no, there was nothing abhorrent about the post, and there's no way that Mike Graham should have been sacked, even if he did send it. Russell Quirk had more to say on this. But first, we've partnered with Gundry MD to share this information with you. Would you believe me if I told you inside your pantry right now is one of the healthiest foods on the planet? Yep, it's true. And it's not some weird trendy superfood. Spoiler alert, it's olive oil. You're probably used to cooking with it, but there are countless ways to use olive oil to help yourself look and feel younger. For example, olive oil is a natural way to help you achieve a more youthful appearance. Besides helping you look younger on the outside, it's a fantastic tool for your insides as well. According to Dr. Stephen Gundry, a famous cardiothoracic surgeon, nutrition expert, and health advocate, you should get as much high-quality olive oil into your daily routine as possible, whether it's taking a shot of it daily or keeping a bottle of it in your bathroom medicine cabinet. But what kind of olive oil is best for your health? Well, any olive oil can give you some benefits, but if you're looking to get the best results, it matters a lot which one you pick. The olive oil industry is huge, right? You can tell that by the number of olive oil brands you see at the grocery store, and you can bet they're not all made with the consumer in mind. Many brands may even cut corners one way or another to increase profits. When Dr. Gundry came to that realization, he was appalled. But some olive oils are so powerful it may only take a few tablespoons a week to see these incredible health benefits. So how can you tell between an olive oil that can be a health booster and which one isn't up to par? In an effort to answer that question, Dr. Gundry has decided to take a stand and release his personal research and findings. The video has gone viral since its release, and it's important you see it so you can start benefiting immediately. You can watch the video right now by going to getolive1.com/outspoken or by clicking the link in the description box below. That's getolive1.com/outspoken or just click on the link in the description box below. People who have taken his advice have shared their results with him, saying the olive oil they bought after learning his simple rules have helped change their lives. So make sure you go to getolive1.com/outspoken or click on the link in the description box below this video. But now, back to the show.
I guess I'll get into trouble because I don't believe that what Mike has done is incorrect in any way, particularly when you are the presenter, as Mike was, of the most successful show on that channel, The Breakfast Show from 6 till 10, and which as a show and a channel overall is famous for trumpeting the fact that it is the home of free speech and common sense. Now, on that basis, and I'm a bit of a free speech absolutist, I think that you should be able to say whatever you like. You can have whatever opinion you like. But that is obviously what has been advanced by talk. And one of the reasons that I and many of you love talk is because it champions free speech and opinion. And bearing in mind, talk is not a news channel as such. It is an opinion channel. And Mike, I think, has been, along with others, Julia, Jeremy and Kevin and so on, have been the champions of that over many, many years, and that's why we love them. So I do think there's an irony to someone having a post appear on their social media channels that talks about an opinion which also relates to something that is concerning millions of people in this country in terms of illegal immigration, for instance, as part of that debate. But that in that person's own time, they say something that later on then effectively gets them the boot from their job. Mike wasn't at work. He was not on air. This was his private thoughts.
Of course. And I also think there is an irony, and I know this to be true, that there has been nothing publicly said by Julia or Jeremy or Kevin or Mark. That doesn't sit well or comfortably, because it's like Mike Graham was this station. You cut him open, he would bleed talk, and now he's just been erased from history. And Russell Quirk, in the statement, which I think is probably most likely to now also see him sacked by talk, says that he believes the very survival of the station is at risk as a result of their handling of this incident. In fact, he believes it probably will not go on.
Commercial implications of firing the most successful and most popular person on Talk TV. A man that would get tens of thousands of people watching his show on YouTube, listening on DAB, and indeed watching back and looking at social media clips and so on and so on. So in this kind of pang of, some might say, kind of woke morality on the part of News UK to get rid of someone that dares to say something that some people might think is a bit offensive and a bit odd and a bit wrong, they're now in a position where if you look at the breakfast show since Mike was benched, the ratings have halved. If you look at Plank of the Week, a show that I am honoured to be part of, I actually was on the first ever Plank of the Week show about 6 years ago, and I continue to be on that show, or was perhaps until this video, and have been for the last 5 or 6 years. In fact, I'm booked to do next week. Let's see what happens. It just seems that the bosses at News UK, and I mean News UK, and I don't know them. I don't know Rebecca Brooks and Scott and others. I don't know, never met them. I do know the bosses on the 17th floor, Denny Morris, who I think he's a thoroughly decent guy, by the way, and I think will probably be really upset about what's going on here. However, I think the bosses have made a catastrophic mistake commercially but also in terms of standing up for the right to free speech. So on the basis that the Plank of the Week show that I was just referencing has now seen its audience halve from 300,000 a week to about 150,000 because of Mike Graham's absence. And his show, The Breakfast Show, which it looks like now might be taken over by Jeremy, I don't know, I don't think he knows yet actually. The commercial implications of what's happened here, I'm afraid, I think now put a big question mark, not over just the commercial viability of talk itself, but also its very future.
Whoa. So Russell Quirk, an existing presenting on Talk, says this is catastrophic. The station may not survive. It's very awkward. I'm sure it's awkward for my superstar panel too, Nick Buckley and Sarah White, who I saw just this week on Talk. And of course, Talk in some ways is such a force for good. But Nick, do you understand why Russell Quirk has felt he had to speak out here? I have to be honest with you. I have huge respect for him doing so, Nick, because one of the hardest, most awful things when you are cancelled, and of course you know what it's like to be cancelled, I know what it's like to be cancelled, is the fact that people who were your colleagues, your friends for such a long period of time just go silent and sort of erase you. And I think we've got to start being braver. And I think what we just saw from Russell Quirk was reasonable, but also actually surprisingly brave. You know, to speak up against your employers like that is a big deal. And he knows the consequence might be that he then gets banned from Talk.
Absolutely. And that's what we're missing in the country. It's a level of bravery. No one's brave anymore now. And I get it to a certain extent if you've got a mortgage to pay. And the people who don't, I mean, when you were sacked from GB News, no one spoke up. And the people, well, Calvin spoke up and it cost him his slot on GB News. You know, we have to be braver because we're in a war at the moment trying to save this country. And if you're in a war, you need to be prepared to take some hits. But people don't want to take that hit. And if you work for an employer, then of course you're at their beck and call. You've got to do what they say. And places like GB News and Talk TV have shown us over the last couple of years that they are better than the mainstream media, but they're nowhere near what we need as mainstream media, as the alternative
Correct,
media.
because, for example, both of you are now involved in Advance UK, Ben Habib's party, and he is on a blacklist now on both channels, actually, despite having previously been one of its most popular guests. But Sarah White, you're not. You know, you still remain a popular person on both channels. So how do you feel about this sacking of Mike Graham and the silence that has surrounded it?
I mean, it's not right, is it? And, you know, hats off to anyone who has the courage to speak out as well. But yeah, it's not right because why would he have give his phone over? We see what happened with the police arresting Tommy Robinson. You know, you can't give your phone over when you've got information on there that could basically incriminate somebody else or leak your you know, where you get your information from, and you're protecting certain people as well because they might not want to be in the public eye, and you can't trust these people that look into your documents either, because we know that you know, stuff goes missing all the time and evidence has gone missing. And so yeah, I don't think that they've done themselves any favors getting rid of Mike Graham, because at the end of the day their viewings have halved. And did he really do anything wrong? He hasn't been found guilty of doing anything wrong. It's just hearsay at the end of the day. And like he said, his phone was stolen 2 weeks prior.
Yes,
isn't it? You're not guilty until proven guilty.
Of course, and you know, News UK decided that the post was vile and abhorrent. But actually, are we allowed to have a conversation about the fact that this mass immigration means that if you are a white person, you are becoming a minority? I mean, literally, Nick, literally, if you are in London as a white person, you are a minority. Is that not a conversation we're allowed to have?
It should be, but don't forget, we're still not allowed to have that in certain circles. And obviously Talk TV is now one of those circles we're not allowed to have this conversation. Just because you work for an employer, all you're doing is selling so many hours a day to that person. And while you're working for them, of course, you've got to do as you're told because you've just sold yourself for so many hours every day. When you're not in work, then what does that have to do with your employer?
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.